Good morning out there, traders. It is December 27th, 2023. Welcome to the Apteros DMI or Daily Market Insight for today. Let's get into our recap and then we'll update our levels for today. So, pretty straightforward stuff from yesterday. We had an upper line in the sand that was really the main interaction for the entirety of the session, where we were looking at scenario 1 holding below it, scenario 2 getting up above it. And essentially, along with scenario 1, we really just didn't have a lot of auctioning off of this bearish area. So, this was the main opportunity with scenario 1 right in this section here. It just did not materialize into anything, which can kind of be expected. A very light auction for this week should be anticipated, at least at some level, because this is a holiday week. A lot of people aren't trading this week, so anticipating more of a light situation, being a little bit more scalpy, a little bit more short term, makes a lot of sense in this type of scenario. And then, of course, we break to the upside and kind of capitulate into the end of the session here with a slight pullback, never really reaching our line in the sand for the session. And that was pretty much it for the story of the session. So it was kind of like one shot to get short, doesn't really work out that well. And then the only way you're getting on board with this bullish movement is if you're getting into like a breakout type of scenario up above here in this particular zone. So that's about it for the entirety of the session. Let's update our levels for today, and then we'll see what's going on in our context across for the ES. Okay, so here we are with our general context and outlook for today. We have an upper bullish zone and a lower bullish zone. This upper bullish zone is kind of our main immediate, more bullish type of scenario. And the scenarios that can play out from here, essentially scenario 1 holding up above this line in the sand, scenario 2 would be breaking down below it, right? So how can this kind of manifest itself in today's session? This upper neutral zone is going to be really critical for scenario 1. In other words, if we break out above this particular area, we can head up to the upside into that 48.44 overall contextual destination that we've been looking at for some time now. If we don't hold up above that, in other words, we kind of stay where we are right now, continue to sell off during the session, the pullback is very likely into our line in the sand area. So this upper line in the sand, or this upper neutral reference, sorry, can be something that you could use to trade off of, but it's not the overall context, right? With the overall context, you're looking for this particular type of movement or price movement in the market. That would be going with the general bias, with the general scenario of scenario 1, and using the neutral reference properly as kind of a benchmark to continue to the upside. Playing it to the downside, it's possible. It's a decent scalping type of opportunity, and that would be something that I would monitor early in the session and then see how that plays out as the session evolves or develops. It's not the high quality context or the better setup of the two, though, because it is against the overall context and against the overall ideas that we're seeing across multiple time frames. So that's what we're looking at with scenario 1 and a little bit more nuance into this particular upper neutral reference there. But from there, we have scenario 2. If that upper line in the sand breaks, we can see a continuation of the downside here into that 4,800 area, and then a possible second leg of that down into our main line in the sand for the overall context for the bulls. And at this lower area here, we have two scenarios. Scenario 3 is that we hold it. Scenario 4 is that we break it down. And if we hold it, we continue our way back up into that first neutral reference, then a possible continuation up into the line in the sand, which would be bearish off of scenario 2. So this upper line in the sand here, if it breaks down, would become scenario 2, and it would be bearish at that point, and that would be a destination for us to look for overall with scenario 3 if it broke back up to the upside. And then, of course, continuation using these references as we see fit. And if we get down to the downside, there's a couple of things that we have kind of out there for targeting. First neutral reference, main neutral area would be somewhere like into here, and then a possible continuation down lower would be that wide open space, that wide open landscape, kind of back into the 47.15 area. So that's the general breakdown of the pathways here for the different scenarios. Right now, the more important thing is that we monitor this neutral area here. If we get up above it, it's more continuation with scenario 1, and that's kind of what we're looking for off that neutral reference. If we do not clear out this area and we hold below it, the pullback is going to be pretty likely to come back into our line in the sand here, and then we'll be monitoring for scenario 1 as an actual test or main inflection for continuation back into the upside there. And that's kind of the overall game plan that we're seeing in the immediate right here, right now picture. All right, so trade well, mind your risk, and get after it for today.